Hey, everybody, we have Andre here today. He was gone for a week. He had the nerve to take a holiday or something.
Well, the holiday was set up, but I didn't, even though I had some sense about the trial, it was way before that. So it just coincided with, a super intense moment.
He said he was pulling out of an airport, and when he heard guilty,
Yeah,
it was a beautiful thing, I got to tell you.
it was, but it's one of those things where you could see it coming,
Yeah.
because uh, people are always saying how he's the Teflon man and he's invulnerable. Maybe, but that hasn't been the case for quite some time.
And you predicted this. You prophesized this. You told us. You know how he always gets away, and you let us know astrologically why that was. And then you said, beginning here, you'll start seeing him going down.
Yeah, no, it's true. It's true. And I mean, and it's been vibrating very closely with the planetary, positions, like especially this thing with the trial is all kinds of things that are lined up not well. They're lined up for him to lose, basically, to get negative news. And then you could see the Mars, moving toward that really tricky spot in his chart. He's got these 12 sign planets that are really complicated. And sure enough, that's exactly when it happened. And he thought, from what I hear, or rather from what I read after, but that he thought he was, going to maybe get away with it because he thought they were going to deliberate longer. Nah, it was right on the.
Well, they said he was laughing and talking to his attorney, and they were in a jovial mood, and they thought the judge was going back to tell everybody they could go home. And the more time it took, the better it was for them.
Yeah, jovial, the word jovial is Jupiter. So he was in a Jupiter mood, but then Saturn reminded him. And it's interesting that even the Jupiter itself, I had put in the video that I made, it was poorly aligned too. It was set up to irritate him rather than help him out. But that's the thing with Trump, is whenever there's any Jupiter on the scene, he always does the Jupiter on the downside. He starts getting arrogant, he overblows things, and also over optimistic. He'll feel like, okay, this is going to work. And then he'll make a move and it won't work. And, the story on what is being said about this trial, I wish they had televised it because then we all would have seen it, but is that he kept inciting his lawyers to do things that were working against him, against his better interests, which included attacking Stormy Daniels too much, and then bringing that person at the end, this Costello guy, that guy did even more damage.
That was the cherry on the cake.
Exactly. Like, it's just a great way to cement in the jurors' minds, this guy's just a total liar and a crook. I mean, he keeps bringing in, one person that is worse than the other, right? And there's the other thing. Have you noticed that this thing with these people, they really show you birds of a feather flocking together, because Trump manages to attract to himself all these people that are like him, that they don't think clearly, they say stupid things at the wrong time, and so then it works against them. It's that simple. Yeah.
Well, I wanted to tell you real quick, I got a beautiful gift from a woman named Judy Lanfredi, Lanfredi, and I'll put her name down below. And she said she wanted you to know, well, she loves me, of course, but my Jupiter's showing. She wanted you to know you're like one of her favorites. She likes all the psychics, but she wanted you to know. And it's called The Wisdom of the Sacred Oracle.
Oh, nice.
And they're very beautiful cards.
Yeah.
And it's called, in ancient Greece and Rome, people all walks of life consulted the oracles. So it looks very pretty. I'm going to check it out, Judy. You got a little pamphlet here, and I'll put your name down and see if people can look you up. But she wanted me to give special mention to you.
Oh, thank you.
Do you want a deck too? I'll ship you out a deck. Sure. Do you even deal with cards?
I do. I use cards, but what the last, I'd say 2 or 3 years, the only cards I actually use a deck of regular playing cards, because I've memorized in my mind the meaning of all the cards. So when I see, for instance, if I draw the two of hearts, that's the two of cups. It's, you
Yeah.
know, immediately, or if I
Very-
draw the seven of swords, which is the seven of spades, and so on. So I get a very quick sense of something by
I
using
got
just
some
that.
in my eye, if you're noticing, I'm really blinking.
Yeah.
I don't know
Well,
what it is, but it doesn't hurt. It's just like there.
huh,
Maybe it's a ghostesses.
yeah.
So, okay, so we got 90 questions.
90 questions. Wow. All
Yeah.
right.
And listen, did you take a look-see, most importantly, at July 11th?
I did. So July 11th, the day itself is complicated in where the moon is for him. You know, the moon is in Virgo. Now, I looked at 10 a.m. I'm not sure when would you think they would be doing the sentencing
Probably
in
around 10:30 Eastern,
of in
July 11th, yeah.
July 11th. Yeah. So the moon is, I wish that if it would turn out that it would be a few hours before, it would be a harsher sentence, I think.
Well, you know what, actually, he starts his day around 8 o'clock, because here it's really early when he starts. So I'll let you know when I get the actual time, but it probably will be more like 8 a.m. Eastern time.
8 a.m. Eastern time?
Yeah.
Well, the earlier it is, the earlier that day, the more troublesome for Trump. And you also know, irrespective of when they do it, that in the hours leading up to it, he's really, really in bad shape. He's not going to be happy because of where the moon is. But if it's 10 a.m., 11, 12, noon type thing, I get the feeling from the moon being a little past the aspect that he will still get something very, very that will make him very unhappy, but less than would be the case if, for example, if they were doing the sentencing at 4 a.m. or 6 a.m. Eastern, which they're not going to, that would be extremely bad. But overall, when you look at the July 11th and you look at the convention that comes right after that, because the convention is I think the 4 days later, I believe, somewhere on there.
Yes, the Republican convention.
Exactly. And that period there shows there's a Mars-Uranus conjunction, and he's going to be raging like a mad bull. I can guarantee you that. That is a very intense type of energy, even worse than the energy when he was convicted, right? So my feeling is that he'll be complaining about what happened with Marchand, right? And,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. And the other thing too is that he is putting this judge in an impossible position because he's not apologizing. He's violated the gag order multiple times. He's not going to do an allocution where he says, I'm sorry about what I did wrong, because he doesn't know how to do that. And so Marchand, if he just says, well, okay, I'll just give you a slap on the wrist, that's going to look really bad for the justice system. So I don't see a way out for this guy. When I put together the logic of just my knowledge of politics, the system and so forth, and with the planets, he's going to get something that he's not going to like. But I would be really surprised if Marchand said something like, I'm going to put you in prison for 2 years. That seems too much, Like, I think at most,
I
some
see
months,
the judge conferring with other judges.
the judge
I
conferring.
see Marchand talking
Oh,
with
okay, sure.
people
Yes.
he trusts.
Yeah, exactly. So uh, I would say, if I had to guess, I would say my sense would be some kind of home confinement, and probably not even implemented until after the election or some such thing. Like,
That's
it's
what I
more,
got. I got that he gives them some sentence. It's not like Rikers Island or whatever, but he's gonna go someplace where it's more appropriate,
right.
Rikers Island. And then I see that he does put it on pause. And there's a
Right.
good fine too. There's some sort of fine.
Yeah, well, that's another thing. Yes, that's another, the moon on that day, it's in Virgo. That's his money house, and it's doing the challenge. So yes, the possibility, yes, that increases some kind of financial consequence. So yeah, that makes sense. Makes
Well, he
total
was
sense.
bragging about making 540 million. I said, good, you can pay E. Jean Carroll.
Oh, of course, of course. Yeah. I mean, the thing with Trump that's remarkable is how he's able to tap into, in this case, he's tapping into American anger, because he's got his son on the American Mars. I mean, it's just pretty basic stuff, right? But the way he can tap into people's pockets, because look what he's doing with Truth Social, right? That thing makes no money at all, like in relative terms. It lost $330 million and it made less than $1 million. So he turns it into a stock, and he can sell that stock by September, right?
Yeah.
So all these people are putting money into something that'll never make any money, because anything Trump does never makes any money. Tell me something that he's ever done that has made money. Nothing, right? So these people are putting money in there. He's going to cash out. So what he's doing is, I bet you anything, he's going to get the money to pay for all these judgments. Right now, he can get 500 million out of that thing. If in September, if people don't leave the stock faster, he can cash out and pay. So his ability to rip people off basically is phenomenal. There you have to, tip your hat, whatever. I mean, admit it. It's unbelievable what a con man he is, to produce money from nothing.
Right. Did you happen to glance at his chart towards the end of June?
It's not good.
Because that's when the immunity thing comes forward.
Well, no, okay. So basically, from where we are now, all the way to August, thumbs down. Because what's happening is, at the end of June, their Saturn and Neptune station, neither is good for this guy, right? That's another reason why he is almost certain to be sentenced to something he doesn't like, because those stations are too close. They're too close to that thing, right? And then after that, you get two more stations, Eris and Chiron. Normally, I wouldn't make too much of a deal about Chiron, but Chiron in his chart is also connected to his legal stuff, right? So all these planets he's basically like, being compressed from both ends. So it makes June and July horrible months, basically, just totally horrible. And they're going to try to spin it. I mean, I can just see the convention right now. Oh, the justice system, this and that. Talk all you like, but it is what it is, and it's not good. So that's the
It's
bottom
just
line.
really sad that Republicans, the ones that believe in law and order, are trying to turn the justice system into a political hack. It's really sad. Some guy I was watching on some show, he said, the bottom line is, we have to beat Trump by a landslide. And that's what I was feeling what's going to happen. I don't know landslide, but you know what I did see? I see a lot of these people not going back into office because they get voted out.
Yeah, that look, it's entirely possible. I mean, I know a lot of people are worried because of some of the polls, which have already started to change, and you can't really look at those polls at least until the summer.
No.
And a lot of this is what's going on now too. A lot of it is developing now, because the other thing too, you probably have heard that the Biden campaign is happy that he's no longer in court, because they want him to be out there saying crazy things, so that people become more and more familiar with where his head is at. And his head is in a crazy place. He's talking about concentration camps for immigrants. He's talking about, well, the women's issue, which he has no way of defending. There's just no way out of that one. That's impossible, because he had to say, I was the one that did it. I did it. I'm responsible.
Yeah, and you know what? He even sat there and denied. He said that Hillary Clinton, that we should lock her up.
Exactly. And this is the thing. He's on tape, saying it repeatedly. So it's just the same thing over and over. But of course, person hearing this will say, great, you're saying this, but the fact is he still has a lot of support. He does, but his support has a ceiling. They cannot get past the mid-40s. It's not possible, right? So they need something from RFK, but now the talk is that RFK is pulling approximately the same amount from both sides. Like RFK is not.
Also, I just saw an article. RFK just dropped. He was like a likability at 46, and now he's at 36.
Right, exactly. But the most he can pull, he'll pull from both sides, because RFK is not exactly, He's not like Jill Stein or, someone on the far left. So, and then, once again, then you look at other factors. This I'll have to do in a detailed video at some point. But, if a person says, great, well, you're saying all this, but what about at election time? It doesn't look good for him then. It does not look good for Trump.
Worse. It
No, it
looks
looks
worse.
worse. Yeah. It's not a winning chart, then you need that to become president. Even a good person can fall if the aspects are tough, around election
Yes,
time. And
yes.
his are not good. They're not good at
Oh,
all.
and they had poor, what's his name? Our Attorney General before Jim Jordan today. What a bunch of hypocrites. They're
Jim Jordan?
talking about impeaching Merrick Garland.
Well, I mean, look,
Because he won't give them the tapes, the actual tapes of what Biden said to that guy, the guy who lied about. They got the what is the type version? They got that, but they want the actual tapes because they them. It's like when they were going to release the tapes of January 6th. Well, that's so they could play with it.
yeah, of course. Yeah, no, I mean, there's no question. We're in the period we're in is a little scary in that one of the parties has no interest in truth, no interest in governance.
Oh, do you believe
none.
Johnson's saying that the Supreme Court wouldn't allow this? I have very good friends there I've spoken with. That is so, he's supposed to be in line for the presidency and the Supreme Court's his very good friends.
Yeah, no, I know it's pretty naked, pretty naked
I want
partisanship.
to throw in Jim Jordan real quick, okay? So Jim Jordan's talking much ado about nothing going nowhere. Trump is his king. And he will sit before the justice. He will find justice.
Mhm.
So people were asking on this thing, will he ever be hit for defying his subpoena? Oh, it's going to be more than that. Let me tell you, he's going to get hit for sedition.
Jim Jordan?
Yeah.
Well, Jim Jordan, when I last looked at him, is that he's in the camp of a whole lot of people that when we get into 25 and 26, they're going to feel a lot of pressure. That's where if people are waiting for any kind of real consequence, at least extreme discomfort, something tough for Thomas and Alito, because they're in that camp, right?
Right.
But right now, there's not enough there to
change it, but maybe more towards 25.
25, 26, 27,
That's
that
because
range is.
That's with the new administration.
Yeah, exactly. Like the thing is when people are in the astrology world, when you are being undisciplined in your life, that's when you're not going to like what happens when Saturn comes by, because Saturn will call you on that. Basically, indiscipline is going through boundaries you shouldn't be going through.
Yeah.
You should be using common sense to say, I go this far, but no further. You go further than that, Saturn will show up to remind you, you went too far. Here's the consequence.
Well, what's interesting, you said 25, 26, and 27. There's no way if Trump got in office, they'd be having bad times in 20. They'd be happy.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. That's exactly the point in a nutshell. That's also why I've said so many times that the Putin, who is, and Netanyahu, Putin and Netanyahu are on the Saturn opposition during those years. And, you have to look at the situation too. I mean, when you're looking at saying something about a chart, you look at a person's possibilities, capabilities. Netanyahu is putting himself in a corner. So is Putin, because Putin doesn't have the resources. This is like, there you just follow the money. If your country doesn't have enough money to do what you are attempting to do, you're going to get in trouble. Remember the woman in Italy she's kind of a fascist and she got elected. And right away, the news was, yeah, she wishes she could do really fascist things, but Italy doesn't have any money. So now she's going along with the rest of the, European Union, because she knows if she doesn't do that,
she won't. Yeah,
lose her job. Exactly.
Well,
so
my son really reads in-depth information. And I'll tell you something, as you know, the population is declining, not here in the United States as much as China and
Mhm,
Russia.
mhm.
Japan is it's -0. And my son says, Mom, you know, China and Russia, not only do they not have the bodies to do a war, they don't have the money.
Money is really important because money moves, it's energy, it moves actions. You know, if you do any kind of military, you name it, you need money, right? And Russia has the same economy as Italy, and they're fighting against the entire European Union, the US. So it could be sooner, it could be later. It's not a good plan. And remember what we said in past talks, that that big conjunction that is coming up in 25 and 26 really correlates with Russian past periods, the revolution in 1917, the death of Stalin in 52,
Yeah, you
and
did. You told us
and the
that.
falling apart in 1989, and that's coming up again. And I don't see how. I mean, explain to me how, if something is coming up, signaling a change, where are you going to tell me now that it's going to change for the better in Russia? How? How does that work? They would have to defeat Ukraine outright, which is nearly impossible to do. I mean, now Ukraine is shooting at now they're shooting inside Russia with American weapons, and Putin is saying some terrible things are going to happen. What is
Yeah,
that?
he always says that.
Yeah, he always says that. Exactly. Yeah. So at best, it would be like having like some kind of a tie, you know, a status quo, which is not enough. Sooner or later, that'll break down, you know,
Yeah.
going into the next couple of years.
Well,
But
mothers, there was some inside European news media that was talking about mothers are sick and tired of where are their sons and from Russia. They
yeah,
want
that
to tell them
always
where are
happens.
their sons.
Yeah, that's exactly true. That's what history tells us. Back when they were stuck in Afghanistan, it was the mothers that started demonstrating, and it forced that was the Soviet Union when they were totally communist. Now, even though it's bad, I would say that he has less control than they used to have back then. But
Right.
they were running out of resources, right? So that's why they had to stop.
Oh, he'd love to do some nuke or something, but he can't. He just, well, not only because the ETs will stop him, but he doesn't have the money to back up the type of war that'll happen. If he dares to throw a nuke, the United States is at war.
See, the thing is that this is back to something we've mentioned before, that you get layers when you're looking at planets. You've got something where you look up close to a certain person, then you look at the country, and then you look at the whole world. And to me, the really key planet here is Uranus, which was discovered right around really close to when the US was formed, by the way. In fact, to me, it's the most it's the most accurate indicator of democracy itself.
Really?
Yeah, because think about it. Democracy started around when the US formed its democracy. Prior to that, it was all kings, right? And fascists.
Right.
Then it started to grow and grow and grow. So that planet has 80-year cycles. So that period back in the US, when the US was being formed, was kind of turbulent. You know, there were revolutions, but the revolutions were to bring about democracy, not to bring about fascism and this kind of thing. Then in the Second World War, that was sorry, let me backtrack. And around the time of the um, Civil War, first return, like of that planet, right? 85 years. Turbulent time again, 1860s. Next one, Second World War. Now we're entering another period like that, where the world, because it's not just the US, this has been dicey in many different places.
Right.
There's a lot of instability, disagreement, but we just got to get through it, right? And not think just because it's there, everything is going to fall apart. It just means there's a transitional energy, being worked through, and it's a little bit, disconcerting.
Yeah.
Because it is, the fact that we don't know what's going to happen, and especially what makes it so disconcerting is when you see an entire party behave this way. But notice, for example, what just happened in Mexico. Who did they just elect? They elected a woman and a progressive style. Now, that can lead to other problems. I'm aware of all that, but there's an example. South of the border, people, they're not electing right-wing people.
No, they did
No.
before, but not now.
No, exactly. So
And
you,
she's Jewish too,
yeah, I know it's pretty unusual.
because Mexico can be very Catholic.
That's right. That's right. And this now shifting to another planet, the one that rules, women and power and this kind of thing. The planet
Ooh.
here is the one that Trump will never see the end of, right? But
Yeah, I love it.
he's so hosed. I mean, every time I look at it, I looked at it today. It doesn't clear the space till 2035. How old will he be then? He'll be whatever,
He's like
80.
77 now.
Yeah, he'd be,
He's dead. He'll be dead by then.
well, whatever it is. I mean, there's no end to it, right? But that planet, what it's signaling is the rise, not just here, everywhere, of female power. And that's really bad news for people like Trump because they represent the total opposite. They have total disdain for the idea of women having any kind of power, any kind of
Yes.
influence.
And those rednecks, they just want to take, oh, forget birth control. Just make sure you're pregnant and you can't do anything. They wanted, the good old days was when women couldn't vote.
Yeah, no, and look, it's where we're in. I mean, if people, well, let me backtrack a bit. The other thing that's true is realize that right now, you and I are talking, and probably 90% of anyone that sees this video is a woman. Okay, that's the first thing.
Oh, that's
If
right.
you're watching and you're wondering, what do I do? Get other women to be with you. Just keep making groups, talk about it, vote. Just show up and vote in the direction you want to vote. That's what's going to save the situation. It's not complicated. It's extremely simple. If we get a strong, female overvote, he's hosed. He's gonna lose 100%. That's what happened in 2020.
But listen, Andre, is the word convicted felon, is that affecting other people? Or other people looking at this saying, I don't want a felon in office?
I think it's just that, remember, in a democracy, any democracy, 5% is lethal. It's a disaster. If you lose 5%, you're in trouble. In this one, if you lose 2%, you probably lose. And I definitely know there are people that are switching, or that aren't sure, that are going to, and Biden is starting to use it. I would keep repeating convicted felon, convicted felon.
Yeah, and I'm sure there's a lot of women who may have redneck husbands and they're over there, needing to agree because they need to keep the peace. Secretly in the box office may turn around and vote for somebody else.
Well, I mean, part of the problem, I think part of the problem is that, and this is the sadness of our time, is that there's media amplifying, amplifying the message. There's Rupert Murdoch getting married again at, what is he, 93? And
on his 5th marriage.
Anyway, so he's pushing this thing where they're talking nonsense and they keep repeating the talking points because, what's really, really funny is I saw remember that guy Takapina? He was his lawyer back when I think it was in the E. Jean Carroll case. Now he's gone, which always happens to Trump. All these people that defend Trump. Now he's saying, no, I'm done with that. And he's saying, things like what they're telling you isn't true. He's saying this thing with Alvin Bragg being controlled by Joe Biden. He's saying the truth. He's saying it's New York. It has nothing to do with Biden. By the way, Alvin Bragg was filing this case in 2018 when Trump was still in power. It has nothing to do with Biden, right? So they're trying to convince people it's the Biden Justice Department. No, it is not. This is
two-tiered. They keep calling it two-tiered.
Yeah, two-tiered. I mean, to me.
And Merrick Garland says, how do you explain Biden's son being in federal court right now? How do you explain, he was naming off all these Democrats that are in trouble. How can that be two-tiered?
Yeah. No, well, look, I mean, I think we're in a period where the US legal system is being tested. It's being tested. And the reason it's being tested is because there are all these liars and thugs on the Republican side telling people that there's something wrong with the legal system. I don't think there is. And the legal system keeps humming along. In fact, it was even humming along when Trump was there, because many times, I mean, think about it. Trump didn't want Michael Cohen charged. that put him in a lot of trouble.
Yeah,
Who
they were
charged him?
trying to make them drop the charges.
Right, but that was Barr's legal justice system. They charge, if they had so much power, they could just go in there and step and change it. They couldn't do it. So
They tried.
it's a strong system. And the thing is, it's being tested. It's not going to be knocked down. That's
And
my
I'm going
sense
to
of
tell
it.
you something. I don't know if you saw my video where I said there will be, I got like 74,000 views on it. I
Wow.
said there
Yeah.
will be no civil war. I had a
Well-
long talk with my guides. There'll be explosions here and there. I see, not as bad as Oklahoma, but I see people thinking they're going to do good for the country because of Trump. But I don't see, listen, he was sitting in New York and he was lucky to get 3 people to come in to cheer for him. Trump was.
Yeah, no, it's true.
There's no, people have families. People are trying to survive severe weather conditions right now.
That's true.
We went through a tornado alley thing that was beyond. People just want to have their home, their family, like they like to know the government's going to help them. They don't need all this drama.
No, which by the way works. This is the other thing. These people like Trump, the Hitlers of the world, they need disorder. Hitler had a much better situation in the 1930s because the world was really turbulent then. So he can step in and
Yes,
take advantage of the chaos. This guy's trying to create chaos that isn't there.
that isn't there.
Just
People are
isn't
more
there.
comfortable.
Right. Did you notice now, interestingly, that Biden asked the companies to lower their prices and they're actually lowering their prices? See, this is the other thing. Every single metric that we have, economic, stock market, it's all turning against Trump. Trump would need now, inflation rising like crazy, things that he could say, oh, look, see, this is all Biden's fault. No wonder the country's falling apart. The only thing he has is his mouth. He keeps yapping. Look, the country's falling apart. Show me where. Where is the country falling apart?
Well,
Right?
yeah, I just took a look while you were talking. The stock market went up again today.
No, I know.
Oh, the stock market's gonna crash. Hear ye. The stock market's gonna crash.
Exactly. And it's all across. It's just him talking. This is going to happen. None of that ever happens, right? And so the environment around them is not conducive. This is to the people who say, oh, this guy is super lucky. No, he's not. A guy like him in this environment, that's unlucky. He would be so lucky if he could say, look at this, the country's falling apart. Then he could step in. Back in 2020, really lucky, he got COVID. That's the worst thing that can happen to an idiot like him, where you actually have to manage a situation. He has no idea how to manage it. You saw what he did. Drink bleach.
Yeah.
I don't want to count. I don't want to do any testing.
Put a light up your rear.
I'm telling you, this guy, his Secretary of State back in the day, Rex Tillerson, had him pegged perfectly. He's an effing moron. That's it. You don't have to go beyond that.
You don't have to go beyond that.
No, and he's losing his faculties at minimum, because I've been saying about his health and all that. Even if he doesn't totally crash and burn, there's been a big decline in the way he communicates. He was never a superb communicator, but he's much worse than 2016. Much worse. He was already bad then. He is not. He can't hold you listen to him and he switches topics. He stops in mid-sentence. His health has been affected.
He's talking, who was he talking about? Somebody, the guy that likes fava beans and Chianti with fava beans, the guy that would eat people. What was that guy's name? It was a fake character. Uh-oh, you're on pause. Uh-oh. Oh, sorry, you went on pause for a second. Uh-oh, I can't hear you. Is that my internet or your internet? I'm so sorry, we got cut off a little bit.
Yes, we're back.
Something happened. It might have been my internet because it said internet unstable. Oh, he's talking about the guy like he's a real guy. The one that Sir Anthony Hopkins played him, and he liked fava beans and Chianti.
Oh, yeah, The Silence of the Lambs.
Yeah, he talked about him as being a real person.
Your audio is getting cut off.
Oh, shoot.
Mm.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I can hear you now. Yeah. So is your internet is lagging a bit?
I paid $1,000 for this Ethernet to go directly into my computer. So I shouldn't be having any troubles.
Yeah, I think I'm, on my end, I think I'm okay. Unless I
Okay.
did a deep look, but
We might have to do this in 2 parts. Because
Yeah.
I don't know how to merge them. You know how to do that probably.
yeah, well, you can send me the file and I can do it for you. It's just that then there'll be a bit of a delay in posting it. It's up to you. Yeah,
I'll
I
send
can
you
do
the file
it.
and
Okay,
you can add it together because it's easier. Then you
sure.
send it to me when you get it.
Yeah, sure, sure.
But,
Sorry, everyone.
okay, yeah, sorry, but at least you know how to do it.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I
That's
don't know
true.
how to do it. I'd have to put it in 2 parts. So, okay, but I wanted to ask you about Netanyahu coming next week. Now, Bernie Sanders says he won't visit him or see him.
Well, for good reason.
Yeah,
Netanyahu is another example of right-wing self-interested mentality because Netanyahu knows that if he doesn't continue with his crazy theory of perpetual war, then he'll likely have to leave office. So that's why he doesn't want any kind of planning that involves pulling back and settling things down. Then he would have to face justice. He's also in trouble with the law, right? That's the
right.
thing with it.
And
So then,
also, somebody wants to get him in for crimes against humanity.
yeah, no, for sure. He's Netanyahu is. This is the year. My sense is this is the year when he has to leave. And
Okay.
that's what I would say. What do you feel about it?
Well, mothers are marching because they want their children back or their husbands back. But it's interesting. I just grabbed a card just to see what his visit will be like. And it's like, maybe not so good enough to make him run.
Yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
don't think Biden is holding him up. I don't see Biden visiting with him.
no. Well,
Who's he
he
going
and
to
Biden.
visit? Johnson?
No, they don't. That yeah, yeah. Johnson, right? Johnson, Mister Religious. Mister Religious Johnson. I mean, I can't believe it. And yet, again, that's another thing. This is again Lucky Donald. Mister Lucky, super lucky. Well, then why did Johnson, who is supposed to be his ally, he gave in? And they funded Ukraine, they funded Israel. Trump wanted him to stop that, but
Yeah.
he didn't, right? So,
And you thought for a minute there, maybe he had decency.
yeah, it's limited decency.
But he's sitting up there lying about this is a 2-tiered program. And the other thing is Trump left the courthouse without seeing his probation. He's supposed to check in before he leaves. He could have got thrown in jail that day for walking out. He walked out. There was paperwork he was supposed to fill. He's supposed to do a P test. He's supposed to do all this stuff. He didn't do none of it.
Well, look, I mean, it's really, this is the thing, right? The thing about, because people often ask, well, how does astrology work? A lot of astrology, I would say 80, 90% of what's happening to you in your life is because of what you're doing. It's not, don't blame your fate. You're doing things and then they come back to you, right? And Trump has been doing all kinds of things in his life. And so now, as an example, even though he's the ex-president, he has to go through the probation officer who's going to ask him questions the way he would ask a common thug, which, by the way, he also is. He's a common thug and he was the ex-president. But I'm sure in his mind, that big head of his is going to be thinking, oh, why do I even have to do this? Because you do, because you were convicted, right? So
Right.
all of that is very bad because then if he doesn't handle it well, he can get a bigger sentence. It's not cool, but it's
Yeah.
reflected in the planets, they move in on you. It'd be like, for example, if a person is constantly abusing their health and then they get an event. Well, of course, it's like how people say, well, you can smoke and never get lung cancer. I know, but if you smoke, the odds are that you will. So maybe
Yeah.
you shouldn't smoke, right? Then the planet moves in and it'll bring you that result from years of something you've been doing wrong. And in Trump's case, like one person said, I saw this voter that she said, I voted for him in 2016, but then I started investigating and now I realize he's just a white collar criminal. That's what this man
Oh,
is. And I'll
listen,
never vote
that
for him again.
producer. Did I send you the article that the producer wrote about working with him?
No, but I think I caught a glimpse of that. Is that with The Apprentice?
The Apprentice, and
Yeah,
how
yeah, yeah.
all of it was a fraud. All of it was made up to make him look like he was somebody. He was nobody.
Yeah, no,
Couldn't
and by the way,
remember people's names. They kept having to cut and paste everything. They had to fix up the area because it's a dump. Trump Tower is a dump.
right. Yeah, yeah,
And
yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, totally. By the way, this is the other thing, and you could say it's part of his genius in a way. This would be, you could say, it's partly luck, right? But it actually contributes to even an even bigger downfall. But think about what's happened here. He comes into office and he was already, remember, he was settling Trump University. That was a fraud, right? It was a
yeah.
fraud. He had to pay 25 million, which means he was ripping people off. Then in the middle of his presidency, remember that his charity, right, was actually, he
Oh,
was
it was
stealing
a
the
fraud.
money and he had to close it down and pay a big fine, $2 million. There was some other thing that he did, another $2 million. All of this is going on right in
And
front
he's
of
acting
people's
like
eyes.
it's no big deal. Yeah.
Exactly. So, I mean, this guy is a fraud. He's constantly, doing something illegal. And, not to mention the sort of icing on the cake is the two worst things that he's facing now, and he will face them. He's just not facing them yet. Then he gets out of the presidency. Well, first he tried to do a coup. So, hey, you know what? Usually you get in
Thank,
trouble for that.
thank
And
God
then
for Mike Pence.
right, and then he took all the documents home. He's like a crime machine. He cannot do it straight. That's what he's
And
like.
how they
But
found out he must have had him was because the moles that they had in Europe were dropping dead. They were being murdered. And they said, what's going on? Someone's releasing the intel. And it was Trump
yeah,
allowing
no,
people to be killed. He had, and Putin bragged about it. Oh yeah, I got all of it.
yeah, no, it's exactly that. And I think the frustrating part, and believe me, I feel the same way. You see things and you think, I can't believe this is happening. But it's just, it takes time. You have to be patient. Hang in there.
You used to say that to us.
Yeah,
You always said his day will come.
wait it out. I mean, by the way, you're seeing it happen, right? But it's like no one is ever happy because the conviction happened, right? And then I saw these comments. Well, now what? Because now there's the sentencing. So, and then when they sentence him, then people will say, "But he's still there." I know, but what about this?
It's
What if I said,
happening, but I really feel another trial coming up soon. It could be whatever they do with that immunity thing, and that other judge takes
"That's
it.
correct"? Well, that's a big threat. I'm wondering about the Supreme Court because it's pretty clear that the Supreme Court is, even though I heard a person say, give him the benefit of the doubt because yes, we have to resolve this issue, with what's private and what all that stuff, right? But if the Supreme Court sends it back to Chutkin, that's really dangerous to Trump. And that falls within that period up into August, right? Then you're going to get more really bad information coming out because Chutkin will call in the witnesses. So this is really dicey territory, for Trump.
And they have to be careful about flat immunity with presidents because
No,
then
they
you can turn around and say, okay, all you guys get out.
no, I mean that's untenable. That
Okay.
talking like that. And by the way, they were signaling. These judges often signal during the arguments. They said right away, no, 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 you can't have that. But then they started veering down that path of saying, oh well, but we have to find out what an official act is and what a private act. I mean, come on. I mean, honestly, like, what are we gonna? So getting up there and saying, let's go fight like hell. That's an official act. If that's an official act, like, is it official that he sat there waiting for 180 minutes or 3 hours plus before he,
Right. Right.
so all of that is being litigated. But once again, and this is where you go. Then you go to the astrology when things are harsh in the cycles, and you've done things are most likely not going to work for you. They just
Right.
aren't going to work for you. And the people that say, "Oh, Jupiter will save them," no, Jupiter will not save you. I've seen Jupiter plenty of times in people's
Yeah.
lives contribute to the
Even when I was younger, and I remember thinking Jupiter was the happy planet, and it would come in something with me, and I was like, wait a second, I thought. And
well,
I'm
it
sitting
can.
there broke with no two nickels to rub against.
It can. I mean, Jupiter can save you in some situations, but it can also walk you into a trap sometimes, right? You get, for example, That's what happened in 2016. He got in there. If you remember, he got in. There was like a little window where everything just seemed to be perfect. Even before he was sworn in 2017, the trouble already started.
Yeah.
Comey starts bringing in the PP tape, and then the next thing you know, he's got to fire people. Then he had to fire Comey. Then Mueller came in. This guy hasn't had a day of rest since he got into this. The smartest thing he could have done would have been stay away from politics, because you're a criminal, and when you're a criminal, you're up on the perch, and the legal system is going to come after you. It's inevitable, right? When you have a lot of
Everybody's picking on him.
yeah,
Hey,
exactly.
listen, people are asking, and I've noticed this too. Marjorie Taylor Greene is like acting out, like she's more cray than she ever was.
She's in the same, Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's the same sign as Trump,
Oh,
and she's in the same like there are 4 signs that are getting Saturn pressure. Steve Bannon is another. Steve Bannon is also making threats. Oh, we're gonna as soon as Trump is in power, is like as soon as we go to Mars kind of thing.
Yeah, he said something on a social thing. He said, and first thing we're going to do. And I said, no, first thing is you need a bath.
Well, that too, exactly. That's exactly it. But the point being that he's talking about, oh, we're gonna, charge 10 different Democrats and all that. This is a lot of happy talk, and so MTG. Now, this is an example too, where people sometimes get confused because they'll say, well, you said women are rising, and then what about MTG and and Lauren Boebert and Elise Stefanik? It's never all women. It's just like it's never all men. I'm saying the majority of women that actually have actual power, that have actual ability to do things, like the woman in Mexico. That's an example of someone rising to a powerful position, and having an effect. So yeah.
But she's just barking like a dog. I don't see good news for her. I don't know. She might still get voted in. They're trying to ask her to run for a Senate position, but if she does, she'll lose her seat for sure.
Well, that's the thing, that when you people are trying to understand Senate versus a House seat. When you're running for the House, you're running in a district. So if you're surrounded by fools, they'll vote for you. But
that's
when you
what
run for
happened
Senate,
with her in her district. Yeah,
exactly. But Senate is statewide. Now you bring in everybody. So that's a great way to lose to a Democrat, to lose the seat. So
and then you can't go back because other people tried to run for Senate of Dianne Feinstein's seat.
Yes.
And Atticus won.
Yes, that's exactly it.
Atticus.
So the Senate is a much bigger lift, and MTG, she's not.
She's a nothing burger.
She's a lot like.
But here you go. The media loves to cover this stuff. They're saying nationwide there's an outage.
Is there?
But I don't have AT&T. They're saying AT&T and a bunch of stuff is out. We might have been right in the middle of some sort of outage.
Yeah, it's possible.
I have Comcast. So listen, last but not least, our wonderful man, Jack Smith, his birthday is tomorrow.
His birthday is tomorrow. I remember, I haven't looked at him in a while, but let me check something here.
I put him in my calendar. I sent him a birthday card.
14, hold on a second, because he's part of this drama. So, 14, okay. So is it
tomorrow or the 6th?
Yeah, Jack Smith's key point is July. The whole month, but especially toward the end of the month, as a victory thing. Really good energy. So
if we get the immunity thing, the end of June.
Right. So for Smith right now, the biggest victory he's likely to get, it's nearly impossible because of the timing. I don't see how there's a trial of the insurrection, the what he charged. Not the documents, forget it. The documents, I think Eileen Cannon.
It'll happen next year without Eileen Cannon.
But for Smith, if the Supreme Court says something and sends it back, that's a perfect setup for him, because he's a really smart prosecutor, and I think he understands what he needs to do, to take advantage of the situation, because anything that can become public would really help him. And so if that coincides with the Supreme Court, I believe, isn't it end of June that they have to, by the end of June, they have to
Yeah, they
is the
said
answer.
a friend of mine said they're gonna announce either the 25th or the 30th of June. But that's just weird. They're holding on to it till the very end.
They are. But see, this is the thing. When you see that the Supreme Court passing judgment at the end of June, it's not a favorable point for Trump. That is not favorable. It's just not going to happen. Like even if, in other words, if you think, okay, well, we're saying he doesn't have full immunity, but that but is terrible in this case, and I guarantee you that. Just wait, you'll hear the Trump team complain bitterly, pretty quickly. Once they
Well,
hear.
yeah, that's like Johnson. Yes, we're gonna, I have good friends in the Supreme Court. They're just not gonna let this happen. I don't see the Supreme Court getting in the middle of it,
In the middle of which.
of his conviction that's going on right now. Everybody's in an uproar that he was
Oh
found
yeah,
guilty.
no, but for one thing, the Supreme Court, I, I'm not 100% sure about this, but I'm nearly sure that they can't because it's a state matter.
They can get involved. I looked it up.
They
They
can.
can still give their 2 cents worth, but I'm almost feeling like because they're in such deep doo-doo as far, and then they're getting ready to be off till October. So they don't even have to look at it.
So the Supreme Court can actually they can
Yes,
unilaterally.
Google it. I found out, and some
Okay,
people that
well,
were on talking with Nicole Wallace said, actually, the Supreme Court can go
well,
in
I mean,
there.
like, look, some things are just so black and white that I think even the Supreme Court, because if you think about it, if you get involved in this, you have to litigate the case. By the way, the Trump team focused on Michael Cohen. He doesn't talk about Pecker. Pecker sank him, right? Because I think Pecker had a deal. They probably said to Pecker, just you testify truthfully, we won't charge you. Pecker said, okay. So
Yeah,
then
and
he's
he
the one
gave
that
a
really,
whole enchilada.
because why did the jury ask for the documentation on Pecker right away? That told you that they were looking at, they didn't even care about Michael Cohen. They wanted to make sure that it made sense, right? So the bottom line is that, if the Supreme Court took it up, they'd have to actually look at the case. How do you overturn a case like that? Based
And
on
it's
what?
not preponderance of the evidence, it's beyond a reasonable doubt.
Oh, it's ridiculous. I mean,
34 counts of guilty. How are they going to turn that over?
well, no, but I mean, there is very little to go. What do they point to say there's something wrong? There are all these documents with signatures. Where?
Oh,
Where do you say?
he'll take it up to the Supreme Court in the state of New York, but they're going to turn around and throw it right back.
No, no, because there's no the case is so clear. There's no, it's not like you could say, well, it could have been this other way. No, because look, there's a Weisselberg signing, all the checks match. Come on, come on.
Yeah,
It makes no sense. This is
yeah,
why.
they can't dance on this one
No, no, there are
like
limits.
they
Even when you're,
did Roe versus Wade. Try to come up with some new idea.
no, that's totally different. Roe v. Wade, that's a totally different
Yeah.
situation. But by the way, even there, right, that is very helpful to the Democrats in this election. And
Okay.
and
That was the sleeping giant. I always said they were waking the sleeping giant.
exactly, and sometimes this happens in life that something needs to first go through a bit of a crash in order to really, be cemented properly. But uh, that's why, I mean, 2022. I mean, it could be maybe next year, the year after. I wouldn't worry about that, even though it's really bad right now. It's very helpful. Think of it as that, because that's mobilizing a lot of women, to
Yeah.
and I think a lot of young women too, who are not happy with Biden over the Israel-Palestine conflict. I think that when they choose between that and the fact that their rights are being taken away, that's a pretty easy vote, where you
Yeah.
realize I better go in this direction, because if I don't, maybe in another few years I'll lose even more rights. I mean, they're looking at even they don't even like contraception now. I mean,
Mm.
it's really really bad.
And and it affects men. It's not the men that are a lot of good men, solid men. They don't want a bunch of kids and paying child support for a bunch of kids. They want abilities to say if they want a child or not.
It's just not. The other thing about the U.S. too is the U.S. The one thing you can count on for the U.S. and this has been studied by statisticians. They're great podcasts with the Freakonomics guys. They're always looking at numbers, and they said that the U.S. is the most independent. The citizens of the U.S. are the most independent, rebellious type of people. The thing you never do to people in the U.S. is take away their rights or freedoms. You do that, you're going to be in trouble.
You're
And
in
so
trouble.
it's remarkable. That's why the Republican Party can do well with things around guns, because guns, well, they're your guns. They want to take them away. Now they're doing something to women that is far worse than that, right? And so
Yeah.
it's going to blow up in their face. No pun
And the
intended.
other thing my son had mentioned is, we take immigrants, and because we take immigrants, our population continues to grow. And
That's
our
true.
economy continues to grow.
That's
He
right.
said a lot of those nations, China, Russia, Japan, they're very
right.
anti-immigrant,
hmm
and then they're just dwindling.
That's right. And by the way, I don't know how Biden can do this, because he has to, though. This is a communication thing, but the US economy, whatever the problems are with it, we've had some inflation during this period, but it's the top economy in the world right now. I mean, when you say economy, you got to measure it against something else. So where would you go? What place are you going to tell me? So then, if that's true, what is this message of Trump? Oh, it's all going to fall apart. Everything's going to burn down. No, it's not. This is just you yapping. That's what you do. You just talk, and you
I
say
was
things.
laughing when they said, and the Wall Street is going to drop. Not that that determines our economy, but it's going to drop. It's going to crash tomorrow. And it
Yeah.
did crash. It went up 500 points.
But I mean, look, Trump is so deluded and so fond of his own message. At one point, he said, "The reason the stock market is rising is because it knows I'm going to be president next." Sure, that's that perfect, right? Isn't it amazing? I mean, oh my Lord. Anyway,
Everybody says so. He always says that. Everybody. I always say, who's everybody?
yeah, who's everybody? By the way, the polls that came out, this is the thing, is realize that you wish that you could say, kind of like around women's issues, you get 65%, it's pretty clear, right? But in terms of the vote, if you get 52, 53, that's pretty good. You're not going to get much more than that. But that's what came out after the conviction, that over 50% say, yes, he did it, and yes, he should be punished for doing it.
Yes,
Right?
I know. Independence. Yeah.
Exactly. So then you just got to go with that. I mean,
And how much percentage of actual Republicans said, that's a done deal. I'm not going to vote for him. There was a percentage, 2 or 3%.
well, there was something like, I think, no, it was higher around. Yeah, that's right. That's the number that would be, that's where we were saying earlier that even if you see numbers like 10%, 20% to the vote, you're lucky if you get 1 or 2 points. But 1 or 2 points can sink you, because this is the thing that frustrates them, is that they can't win they have to win by really tight margins. They know, like one person said, I think it was Rob Reiner, he was being interviewed by somebody, and
Yes.
he said, oh, Biden's going to win by 10 million votes. The problem is that the Electoral College shrinks it, and so then you win by 100,000, 200,000, right? But that's that 1 or 2% that can kill you, because that 1 or 2%, depending on where you, like Arizona, for instance, right? Arizona, they're counting on winning that. I don't know about that, because Arizona, there's a lot of unrest around what's happened with the women's issue, and so then if they lose Arizona, they're probably going to lose Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania. It's not a good situation,
No.
not for them. So
I love it. All right. Thank you, my friend.
all right, fun as always, and hopefully next time there won't be any whatever it is, whatever storms are causing nationwide.
Hopefully,
Yeah.
you guys, we got some good news next week or so. Okay, my friend, you take care. Bye,
Bye,
everyone.
everyone.